Hey, what's going on, guys? My name's Caden and welcome back to another video on the channel. Now today's video is going to be a little different, as today we're going to be talking about half marathons. And not just any half marathons. Today we're going to be talking about my first half marathon that I just ran this Sunday at the Donna Deegan Run 2020. So for the last 4 months I've been training with this group called Marathon High. And what they are, it's an extracurricular club at my school that takes out students and trains them up to run a half marathon at the end of the course. As far as our training regimen went, it was 3 days a week, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, and pretty much the Tuesdays and Thursdays were our shorter runs, typically 3 to 5 miles depending on where we were at in the season. And then our Saturday runs were our long runs to try to get us up in those higher miles so that we can work on our endurance. So those were anywhere from 6 to 12 miles at the end of the season. So we began training on October 10th or 8th or something like that, and we just ran our half marathon February 9th, this last Sunday. Like I said, it was 4 months in total, but in reality it was probably closer to 3 because I didn't run it all over Christmas break. And, you know, there's the occasional practices that I missed throughout the season just due to, laziness. So yeah, I'll post a picture of the full training regimen on the screen now. You guys can pause the video and look at it if you guys really want. But yeah, as far as training went, I was pretty consistently averaging about 7 minutes 45 seconds a mile to about 8 minutes 15 seconds a mile. So that last week I was really trying to keep my water intake up so that I wouldn't cramp up during the race or feel dehydrated during the race, because that'd been a big problem for me throughout the season. If it wasn't on those smaller runs, it definitely hit during those big runs where I just wasn't taking in enough water, and it really started to cramp up in my sides. Like, felt like my lungs were just gonna explode. And running through that is just painful, and it slows you down, of course. And I didn't want any of that affecting me during the actual marathon that I've been training for. And it definitely showed, because I didn't have any cramps or any problems with water during the race, thank goodness. So in the week leading up to the race, my dad had bought these energy packets offline, and pretty much what this is it's a gel or paste sort stuff that's just loaded with caffeine. And pretty much when you're feeling tired during a race, you just tear off the tab, slurp it up real quick, swallow it, and it's supposed to give you this sudden rush of energy pretty quickly so that you can keep on going, so that you can maintain your pace and stuff like that. So if you guys are interested in running a race in the future, especially if it's longer distance, I do recommend these. These did help me, and I'll talk about them later during my actual race portion of this video. But the only concern I have is with the flavors of these. This one, as you can see, is chocolate cherry, and I don't know about you guys, but chocolate cherry doesn't really sound like a pleasing flavor during a race. Some of the other flavors include vanilla, mocha, double espresso, and my all-time favorite, Raz. Whatever that means. So as far as what I ate before the race, the night before for dinner I had french fries, potatoes, and fried shrimp. Typically runners eat rice, potatoes, white bread, little peanut butter, stuff like that. You don't want to eat a lot of protein, because all protein does is fill you up, and it backs you up if you have to go to the bathroom before the race, and that's really going to affect your performance. And second off, you don't want to eat a lot of whole wheats or greasy foods, because those are going to do the opposite and make you have to go to the bathroom, which is what you don't want during a race. So what did I do? I ate greasy food the night before the race. But no, it was fine. I was having a little bit of digestive issues the night before the race, but on race day I was completely fine, nothing went wrong, so that was a plus. So right after I was done eating dinner, I went out to Walmart and I purchased an armband for my phone so that I could listen to music during the race, because I read this article somewhere that said listening to music was supposed to increase your pace by up to 15%, and I didn't want to take the chance of not doing that. So I just ended up doing it, and yes, I did listening to music during the race. Lastly, when I got home, I took a warm bath because I just wanted to relax my muscles. I'm not sure if that's the best thing to do before a race. I don't know. I'm not a doctor or mathematician, And finally, I went to bed at a respectable hour. I was on track to get 8 hours, I think, or close to 8 hours, and I couldn't fall asleep. So I tried going to bed at 9, and I didn't end up falling asleep until like 11, and I had to wake up at 4:30 the next morning, so that was great. So in total, I only got about 6 hours of sleep, which I thought was really going to be detrimental the next day, but it wasn't too bad. Like, I think my adrenaline was just high that whole morning, so I felt awake. So here we go, race day. So I woke up at 4:30, got dressed, got everything around, and headed off to my school at about 5. And then once I got to my school, it was around 5:30. We got our bibs, took a group picture, which I'll post here, and we headed off for the race in the bus. So on the bus ride over there, I was getting pretty excited. I just listened to music to try to hype myself up, give myself some more energy. So after we got off the bus, they gave us some instructions, and we headed off to our tent to put stuff away, and then they set us free to the starting line. This was it. After 4 months of training, tens of hours of running, I was about to run my first half marathon. And let me just say, the weather was perfect that day. It was about 50 to 55 degrees out, which is absolutely amazing for running. It wasn't humid at all. It was a little sunny, but it was a good mix, and it felt really good. So I thought it through, and coming into the race, I knew that I wanted to run a 1:45, a 1 hour and 45 minute half marathon. That's 13.1 miles in an hour and 45 minutes. That's a 7-minute, 59-second pace. Now, I don't know about you guys, but that sounds pretty dang fast to me. And as far as training, I was still running a little above that pretty consistently. So I knew that I was going to have to push myself to cut off 10 seconds, maybe even 15 seconds some miles. I knew it was going to be a struggle, but that was my goal that I'd set out to do, and that's what I was going to do. So at the starting line, I got my phone all hooked up with my headphones and my playlist playing. I had my watch ready to go with the timer, and I started to stretch. It got down to the last minute before race day, and I was so ready. I was so full of energy, so full of adrenaline just throughout my veins. I was ready to run. So the clock started counting down from 10, and right then, one of my favorite songs came on my playlist, Candles by Juice WRLD, Rip Juice. And I just felt it was going to be a good race from then on. So I started off running the race in the 1 hour and 45 minute pace group with 2 of my friends. Shout out Ryan and Gruber if you guys are watching this. And my coach, shout out Mr. Els, I know you're not watching this. And for the first mile, it was great. I wasn't tired at all. I didn't feel any pain. Everything was good. I was just listening to music, and that's it. Mile 2, I was honestly already starting to get a little tired. It was a little uncomfortable. Nothing I haven't experienced throughout training though, so I was fine to keep on going. I just kept up with my pace group. Now what they don't tell you, or at least what I've never heard, miles 3 and 4 were probably the hardest miles during that race. So like I said before, I was running at a faster pace than I normally do, knowing that I had 8 to 10 miles left to run. And at this point I was really thinking to myself, wow, maybe I overestimated my ability. Like, maybe 1:45 is just too fast for me. Maybe I needed to put in more training or try harder in training, and then I can get up here. But I don't know if I'll be able to do this for another 10 miles. But at the same time, I also knew that I put in 4 months of training, and I told everybody that knew about the marathon that I was going to get that 1:45, and so I stuck with my pace group. I remember thinking to myself in my head, I am not leaving this pace group unless I absolutely have to. I'm gonna stay with them. I don't care if it hurts. I don't care if I'm tired. I'm gonna stay with them. So I stuck with my pace group, and by mile 5, I was starting to feel so much better. I had gotten this sudden burst of energy, probably from the energy packet that I ate at mile 1, and I felt like I could do this again. Like I said earlier, this is probably due to the energy packet that I had early in the race, but it's also probably due to a little thing called runner's high. And for those of you that don't know, when you run long distance, after the first few miles, you know, you're kind of plateauing, but then you just get this sudden burst of energy. I'm not sure where it comes from, and you start running faster, you start feeling better, and it usually comes around mile 4, 5, 6, somewhere in there. And the good thing about runner's high is it typically lasts quite a while. Like, mine lasted for about 3 hours this race, from mile 5 to mile 8, and I was feeling great. I was right behind my pacer. I was keeping up. I was no energy loss. I was really feeling like this was possible again. And then mile 9 hit, and yeah, I was starting to feel like, yeah, maybe this isn't possible again. And at this point of the race, I actually did fall behind my pace group. I was just so tired. I was still running as fast as I could this whole time, but I was just so tired I couldn't keep up with them. And I stayed at this motivation level probably for the next couple miles. By mile 10, I actually did catch up with my pace group again, but it was during one of their walk breaks, and as soon as I caught up, they started running, and they pretty much outran me in about 2 minutes. So I was still behind my pace group. I was still feeling like maybe this isn't possible. Maybe I should go for a 150, 155. Maybe I should just be happy with under 2 hours. This is my first half marathon. You know, it's not too bad. But I kept on going. I kept on giving it my all. I kept on going as fast as I could the whole race. And miles 11 and 12, I was just pushing. I knew the end was close. I just had to keep on going. It was a mind game at this point. I knew my body can do it. I just had to persist. I was grabbing all the water I could at stations, all the wet sponges, putting them on my neck and my forehead. I just kept on going. I was grunting, grinding my teeth, whatever I could do to just keep on going. I still had one headphone in, and I remember about mile 11 and a half or 12, this beat drop came on a song, I forget what song, and it gave me a sudden rush of energy, and I just started to go a little faster. It gave me a little jolt of energy, and I started coasting a little faster. Mile 13 rolled around, and I knew I only had one more mile to go. So I started to go a little faster. I was still super tired though, so it wasn't like it was a full-on sprint or anything. Towards the end of the race, probably the last, I don't know, quarter mile or so, I caught up with another one of my friends that actually started running with the 1 hour and 30 minute pace group and must have fell behind, and I was able to catch up with him and actually pass him towards the end of the race. Speaking of the last quarter mile, this was the point where I was going pretty fast for having just ran, 13 miles prior. And I knew the end was close, so I kept on going at the speed, but I was just thinking to myself, like, where's the end? Like, jeez. There were so many turns towards the end that I'd go around one corner and I'd be like, oh, the end's gonna be just around this corner. And then it wasn't, and then I go around another corner and it's like, oh, this is gonna be the straightaway. No, it wasn't. And then I go around another corner hoping the end would be finally there. Eventually, finally, I turned a corner, and there it was, the straightaway leading to the finish line. As soon as I saw that, I used everything I had in me to sprint to the end. After 13.1 miles, I finally crossed the line at a 1:45:25. I'd finally done it. I'd gotten my 1:45:25. And you know what? Right then, of course I was excited. Don't get me wrong, I was excited. But I don't think I'd really realized what I'd done until probably when I got home that night. I was happy that it was over. I was happy that I got the time that I wanted, pretty much. But I don't know, I didn't feel the full effect of it until I really started to think about it. And I really didn't start to think about it until the night after and even the day after. So after I sprinted through the finish line, I'd stopped and walked through the finish line straight, and I'd grab my water, my heating blanket, and most importantly, my medal. I'd also taken home a heating blanket, if you guys care what that looks like. But the really cool thing about the end was that I actually knew and was friends with a lot of people that were passing out the medals, the blankets, and the waters. This is because most of the volunteers at that race were actually a part of the ROTC program at my own school, which I'm also a part of. Because of that, after actually running the race and catching my breath, having some water, and a little break, of course, I was actually able to volunteer for the duration of the race. So for the next 5 hours of the race, I actually passed out waters, medals, and blankets to the rest of the runners, and took pictures too. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Oh my gosh, Caden, you're such a good person and so very humble. Now tell us your results. And alright, here we go. So like I said before, I was able to finish in 1 hour and 45 minutes and 25 seconds, which it was able to get me first in my school, 8th in my age group, which was 0 to 19 years old, I'm 16, 106th in male contestants, and 168th in total. Now that might not sound good, but there was 3,100 contestants. Now, depending on who you are, that might still not sound very impressive, but to put it in better terms, that was the top 6% of runners that day. And for my first half marathon, I think that's pretty good. As far as the afternoon and night after that race, I would like to point out that I didn't take a single nap that day, excluding maybe the bus ride home, which I'm actually pretty proud of, considering after the 12-mile training run I slept for like 3 or 4 hours. Pretty much everything physically, even the day after, has been normal, nothing out of the ordinary except for my legs, which are still killing me. It takes me so much longer to get places, especially if they're upstairs. If it's upstairs, don't expect me to get there quickly. I can really tell that my muscles are still stiff and sore, everywhere from my ankles up to my glutes even. It's just everywhere, it's just soreness, which that was expected, of course. I'm not an idiot. Sometimes. Also, one thing about the night after, this was probably 12 hours after the run or so, I was just getting really hot for no reason. It's like my body was giving off a bunch of body heat. I'm not sure what that was really caused by. I'm sure it's normal, but I might be dying. And one last thing, after running the race and volunteering for 5 hours, I did get a little sunburn, which you can tell. But that was to be expected, as I am a pale white child. So my finishing thoughts and feelings about running the race, and a couple words of advice to anybody out there who wants to run a half marathon and hasn't yet, or anybody out there who doesn't think they can run a half marathon. Let me start off by saying, a year and a half ago, I had no clue that I'd be running a half marathon. I would have never thought it was possible. Like, I thought people running 3 miles on the side of the road just for fun or just for training was crazy, especially if they were running at like an 8-minute pace or a 9-minute pace. I thought that was totally insane. Like, I couldn't be able to do that. But then one day, a family friend came and visited us, and he asked me if I wanted to run 3 miles with him one day, and I'm just like, no, not really, but, you know, I guess. And pretty much we went out and ran 3 miles. We did it at a pace I could handle, and it wasn't that bad. Like, I did it. And I was just shocked by that alone. The fact that I could run 3 miles at one time, I just didn't get the concept of how that was possible, you know, for a human. Then I joined Marathon High. I actually got on a training regimen, and before I knew it, I was crossing that finish line at the 13.1 miles. It really is possible for whoever out there wants to do it. Even if you don't want to do it, like running a half marathon or marathon to you doesn't sound interesting in the slightest, but you haven't tried running in the past, I recommend just going out and trying running. Like, you might actually find something you like. Even if it seems like you wouldn't like it, but you haven't given it a try, just give it a try. Trust me, you might end up liking it. Finally, I'm really happy with how I did on the half marathon, and I'm so glad I get to share this experience with you guys, and hopefully convince some of you guys to start running out there. Also, if you guys have any questions at all about anything discussed in this video, feel free to comment it in the comment section down below. I'll respond to all the comments down there. And if any of you want more advice on running or anything like that, feel free to get in contact with me. I'll try to get into contact with you. I'll try to help you out in any way that I can. But yeah, guys, that's all for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys are still watching right now, comment down below #CreationNation. And if you guys really are still watching, I appreciate you guys. You are my favorite subscribers right here. I'm gonna heart your comment, you trust me on that. But yeah, guys, other than that, if you guys liked the video, like the video. If you guys aren't subscribed, subscribe. If you guys don't have the bell turned on, slap the bell in the face. Forcibly. Forcibly. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I will see you all Friday for a very special upload. Stay tuned, guys. See you later.